Good morning, lovely humans. I am Miss Tolson, as most of you know, and what I am going to do today is walk you through our second lesson for the week on the poem called Hope is a Thing with Feathers. All right, so the things that you're gonna need out, you're gonna need out a pencil and paper to take notes with, and then at the end of this, you're gonna need access to the quiz on Microsoft Forms. This is just going to be like an exit ticket that you would normally take in class. And it's one of those things that if you really pay attention to this and participate along with me, I know it might feel a little bit silly, but just know that the more you participate, the easier your exit ticket is going to be at the end. So do a good job, participate, send me or Ms. Gerlin any questions that you have as you are working through the quiz. Come to our office hours. We are here to support you throughout this process. Hold on. Sorry, my cat was messing with stuff. So basically the agenda for this is we're going to access our prior knowledge about poetry. We are going to read the poem called Hope is a Thing with Feathers. We're going to do a couple of practice questions and talk about the poem, and then we are going to take the exit ticket. All right, so let's talk a minute about our objectives for the day. Objectives, students will be able to analyze Hope is a Thing with Feathers. And then the second is students will be able to connect the message of the poem with the miracle worker and with our own lives. So we're going to be talking about the poem and then making those connections both to what we're going through and to the text of the miracle worker. So at the end, like I said, you're going to have an exit ticket on Hope is a Thing with Feathers. These are going to be multiple choice questions. So the questions that we're going to answer together are going to be more open-ended, and then the actual quiz itself is going to be multiple choice. So let's talk about what we already know about poetry. A metaphor. I know in my class and Ms. Gerlin's class we've talked about metaphors, but it might have been a while and I know you don't have your binders with your notes. So let's say the definition of metaphor together. So read it along with me. An implied comparison between two usually unrelated concepts or objects. Awesome job. So what does that actually mean? Let's talk about it. So here is a metaphor from The Watsons Go to Birmingham. She, meaning Mama, always blamed him for bringing her all the way from Alabama to Michigan, a state she called a giant icebox. So here, Mama is saying that Michigan, she's comparing to a giant icebox. Awesome. Now, what is an icebox? An icebox is like an ice chest or a cooler. And a lot of times people used to call freezers ice boxes. So what does Mom actually mean in this statement? She means that Michigan is super, 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 super cold, right? Now, she didn't just say Michigan is really cold. She said Michigan is a giant icebox. So she's emphasizing or explaining how freezing cold Michigan actually is. So here we're gonna pause. I'm gonna actually ask you to pause the video here and write for 2 minutes. You don't have to write in complete sentences, just write whatever comes to your mind. What does hope mean to you? What does it mean to hope for something? So go ahead and pause the video, write it down. I would even love it if you sent me your answer in the chat. You can just say, hey, Ms. Tolson, hey, Ms. Gerlin, this is what I think hope is. So write it down on your paper, and then if you, for bonus points, you can send it to us in a chat. All right, awesome. So we're gonna actually now read the poem aloud together, but before we do that, let's actually look at the author. So this is a painting of Emily Dickinson. Now, it's not up to your selfie standards, but this is an approximation of what she looked like. She was born in 1830, so a really long time ago. And she was an American poet who lived a mostly introverted and isolated life. You guys know what isolated means because that's kind of how we're feeling right now. We're pretty isolated from each other. We're having to stay apart. We're having to social distance. That's what isolated means. It's you're by yourself. She was such a talented writer, and she wrote a lot. She wrote over 1,800 poems in her life. And so the poem that we're going to read right now, it was first published in 1891. Now, if you notice, she died in 1886. So this was actually published after she had died. And it really talks about the nature of hope and what it means to hope. All right, so let's read the poem together. Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And the sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. All right, so there were a bunch of words in there that were pretty challenging. So let's talk about what some of those mean. So the first one is gale. Hold on. Sorry. And gale means a strong wind. So that's going to be important for us to keep in mind. The second word that we need to probably pay attention to is abash. And abash means to destroy the self-confidence of. And an extremity down here means the furthest limit or the most extreme part of something. So let's read it again, knowing what those words mean. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul. So what has feathers and perches? Perches means to sit up on, and sings. I'm thinking that this is talking about maybe a bird. I'm going to try to write with this. So if I'm thinking about a metaphor, hope could be like a bird, right? That never stops singing. So if it never stops, what does that mean? It means that there's always something to hope for. So maybe even in this really challenging time when I'm really sad because I can't see you guys, literally have cried a lot about it, there's still hope in the world. You know, like I have a lot of hope that we're going to see each other, you know, as soon as it's safe to see y'all. All right, so the first stanza, this is stanza 1, that makes sense. Okay, hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. All right, so now let's go to stanza 2. So we're going to read stanza 2 and kind of talk about what that could mean. Here's stanza 2. And as sweetest in the gale is heard. And what was gale again? It's a strong wind. Oops. So it's sweetest in this really strong wind. Well, that makes sense. It's important to hope for something when it's really stormy. So we could say like we're living in this stormy time, right? Not literally stormy, but it's a difficult time. So we need to have hope during that difficult time. That makes sense. And sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. That could abash, that could destroy the little bird. So basically what this is saying is the storm must be really bad if it's destroying the little bird, and remember the bird we said was hope. I've heard it in the chillest land. We're going on to stanza 3. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So what is it here? It is hope, right? We're still talking about hope. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So hope doesn't require anything from you. Literally all you have to do to hope is not get destroyed in the storm. So even though I'm really, really sad right now, and even though I really miss you guys, I'm not giving up hope because I don't want to be destroyed in that storm. Does that make sense? If you have questions about what this means, please reach out. Let's read it one more time, because remember, with poems, especially with tricky poems, we've got to read them a bunch of times to make sure we understand. So we've talked about each of the stanzas by themselves, so now let's read the whole thing together again. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Awesome. And the thing that I noticed in this last is this crumb. And what is a crumb? It's a really, really tiny piece of food or bread or something. So it never asked a crumb. It never even asked me a little bit. So hope doesn't require me to do anything, not even a tiny thing. Okay? So let's reread line 1. Hope is a thing with feathers. What is the thing with feathers that hope is being compared to? You should be able to say that because we literally just talked about it on the previous slide. Hope is a what? Send me that answer in the chat, or Ms. Grillon in the chat, so I know that you were paying attention. And what makes this thing hopeful? So what is this thing doing that shows us it is hopeful? What action is it doing in stanza 1 that shows us it's hopeful? You can also send that to me in the chat. Okay, questions 2, 3, and 4 on your exit ticket are gonna deal with these lines. So read the last line of each stanza. Which of the following characteristics of hope do they reveal? So one of them is going to be comforting, one is going to be endless, and one is going to be selfless. So never stops at all. So comforting is like a hug or an encouraging word, something that gives you comfort or gives you encouragement. Endless means it never stops, and selfless means you're thinking of other people, not yourself. So which one does this match to? Good. It matches to endless, right? Because if something's never stopping, it's going on and on and on. I'm going to switch colors here. That kept so many warm. So we know it's not endless because we already used that. So is this comforting? Is this giving you comfort or encouragement, keeping you warm? Or is it not asking something of you? Good. If it's trying to keep you warm, that's going to be comforting. And then that leaves us with, it didn't ask a crumb of me. That's being selfless, right? Because it's not asking you to do anything, it's doing all the work here. All right, so now we're going to make some connections with the poem to the miracle worker and to our own lives. So read these lines from the miracle worker. Mr. Keller says, Katie, how many times can you let them break your heart? Break your heart. And she says, any number of times. What does that mean? Any number of times. That means unlimited, right? It means that you can break my heart again and again and again. Okay? So these two sentences explain how Keller and Kate have different levels of hope. Use the phrase in contrast between your two sentences. So who has more hope here? Mr. Keller or Kate? Kate definitely has more hope than Mr. Keller. So in your sentence, as you write it down on your piece of paper, make sure that you talk about that. And I would love to hear your sentences, and you can definitely send those to me in the chat as well. All right, now read these lines from the miracle worker. Annie says, "Which half? I crawled in here like a drowned rat. I thought I died when Jimmy died, and that I'd never again come alive. Well, you say with love so easy, and I haven't loved a soul since, or never will, I suppose. But this place gave me more than my eyes back, or taught me how to spell, which I never thought I'd learn anyway. But with all the fights and trouble I've been here, it taught me what help is, and how to live again, and I don't want to say goodbye. Don't open the door, I'm crying." In what way is Annie like a bird? Where does her hope come from? All right, so let's actually look at this. I want to get a different color. Let's get black. There we go. So I crawled in here like a drowned rat. So does she have hope here? A drowned rat? I don't think she has hope yet. Well, you say with love so easy. I haven't loved a soul since, and I never will, I suppose. But this place gave me more than my eyes back. Okay, so here she's talking about what the school has given to her. It taught her more than how to spell. It taught me what help is and how to live again. And I don't want to say goodbye. So where does her hope come from here? That's the part I really want you to focus on. So in your answer, and again, write it down, and you're welcome to send it to me in the chat. How is Annie like a bird here, and where does her hope come from? Make sure to answer both parts of that question. All right. Now we're going to make a connection to your own life. Which line from the poem connects with how you feel right now? So I'm going to say that this second stanza is how I feel. And I've already talked a little bit about this, right? I've been really sad not to be able to see you guys. And it feels like, in this big metaphor, it feels like it's really storming. But I'm not going to let the storm abash or destroy me. I'm going to stay hopeful. So that is my personal connection, and I would love to hear yours. All right. So now for your exit ticket, we're pretty much done with the lesson. You're going to click on the link and take the exit ticket. Be sure to refer back to the poem. You can refer back to the video, refer back to the PowerPoint, and please let me know, or Ms. Grelon know, if you need help, if you have questions. We're here for office hours, or lunchtime and lessons as I'm calling it. I'm here from 12 to 1 every day on Teams, and I am here for you if you need any help. So as always, friends, I love you, be good, and have a wonderful day.